I went on a vacation to Tampa, Florida, and one of the activities I ended up doing was going to a glass blowing studio. And the studio offered classes on glass blowing and also on Flamework. And so I decided that I wanted to try the Flamework. And you can make pendants and beads, kind of small glass things. And I really enjoyed it. And I thought, I think I could do this at home. This doesn't look like there's too much here. I could maybe do a setup at home. So I did. I made a little studio in my house. And you have to have ventilation, so that's why the window's open. You also have to have some special glasses that we'll see here in a minute. So the setup is actually pretty simple. You buy these glass rods, and there's different kinds, and the kind that I bought it's a softer glass, so it doesn't require quite as high a heat as some of the more professional glass. You are also supposed to wear these glasses because if you look at that yellow flame for too long, it can hurt your eyes. And you can see that you can really see the glass better when you're looking at it through the glasses. You can see what's going on with the glass. Well, I did it at the studio, and I did pretty good. But I got to tell you, I made a lot of really ugly things for the first, couple months of working on this. And I struggled with the glass and couldn't really quite figure out what to do with it. I watched tons of YouTube videos making all sorts of things. And eventually I saw a video where they made hearts. The hearts I end up making are a little different, but I really, it inspired me to get to where I got to. So to make a heart, you heat up that rod. You gotta get a glob of hot glass on the end. You take these mashers and mash the glass to make a flat, and it sort of makes what they call a lollipop. And then once you've got that lollipop, then you heat up the end of it a little bit, and then you use another tool and smash down the middle of the heart. And then the next step is I poke a hole in it, and poking that hole. When I tried a few different ways to poke the hole, and finally I bought these this tool designed to make those holes. And when I pierced that first heart, it made me think of piercing an ear. The outside of the glass is softened by the flame, but the inside is cooled slightly. So there's this resistance, and you can hear and feel the cooled glass on the inside being crushed. And this made me think of the song, Pierce My Ear. Here's the words to this song. Pierce my ear, O Lord my God. Take me to your door this day. I will serve no other gods. Lord, I'm here to stay. For you have paid the price for me. With your blood, you ransomed me. I will serve you eternally. A free man I'll never be. And the words for this song come from Exodus. The idea for this song comes from Exodus 21, 2-6, and I'll read that out. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years. But in the 7th year, he shall go free, without paying anything. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. But if he has a wife when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to the master, and only the man shall go free. But if the servant declares, I love my master and my wife and children, and do not want to go free, then his master must take him before the judges. He shall take him to the door or the doorpost, and pierce his ear with an awl. Then he will be his servant for life. So, piercing that glass and piercing the idea of the pierced heart came to mind. And, we ask God to pierce our hearts, and we commit our lives to Him. When we have a pierced heart in serving God, we serve our fellow man, And a pierced heart, that means that we have compassion. We feel for others and can see their needs just like Jesus can see their needs. One of our biggest lessons from COVID has been patience. We kind of expect to get what we want when we want it, especially in America. And in general, we expect to be served instead of being servants. But when our heart is pierced, we understand being a servant is what is important. Matthew 20:26-28 says, "Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." Being a servant can come in many forms. There are some things that we traditionally think of as service, but we can really expound on that definition. I think that family is service. Sometimes, our family is about it. There's a lot of service going on in our family, and that's about all the service we can handle because our family has lots of needs. And we shouldn't feel guilty about not being able to do other kinds of service, because we are doing service. There's a lot of service going on right there in our family. Friendship is service. Having a friend, being a friend, sitting and talking with people, listening to them, and then they're serving us by listening to us. Food is service, when we are able to and have a meal and be hospitable and have people into our homes, or even just go out to a restaurant together and maybe pay for their meal, and that's a real service to them. Kind of on a different angle, work is service. When I'm sitting and working, I talk on telephones for my job at a call center, in a call center kind of environment, and sometimes I get grumpy. I get real frustrated with people, but I just have to remember, back down. Remember that what you're doing is service. This is service right here. Talking to these people, helping solve their problems. This is service. So I'll write that on my notepad. Smile. This is service. This is an opportunity to help mankind, to help people in the world. And so if you are working, pretty much, most jobs are service oriented. And so our work is very much service. Leading is service. Not everybody wants to lead. And when you agree to lead, that is huge. Sometimes that happens in a church setting where you become, the leader of a ministry, or like our elders are our leaders, or at work, if you agree to be a manager. There is so much service when you are leading. You are leading to allow others to do what they need to do. If we don't have bosses, then the people doing the work can't get the work done because there's nobody to organize things. And I've heard bosses say, my job is to go to all the meetings so that you guys can actually get some work done. And that sometimes that's the way it is. I've heard, like at a concession stand at a movie theater, I heard a person who was the leader say, my job is to make sure that everybody has what they need so they can do their job, so they can, serve those customers and get those things going. And so I'm in the background, running around getting cups, getting this, getting that, so that everybody can continue the work of getting all the customers served. So leadership, stepping up to leadership, is absolutely service. So if you are willing to do that, that is, I think sometimes people think, even politics, even being a politician, you kind of think, stepping into that role is an ego, there kind of got to be an egomaniac to do that. And in some respects, yes, there's a part of that, but the fact that they have even agreed to do it, that they have agreed to take that on, to go put themselves out there and allow people to say horrible things about them. The fact that they've even agreed to move into that leadership role is really a big deal, and it is service. They are serving us by being our leaders. And the last thing of service I want to think is, service is service. Because I've talked about all these other things that are sort of, we don't necessarily think of as service, but then there's just actually doing the thing, having a servant. Summer learning camp. I got to tell you, I wasn't really involved. Didn't really want to get involved. Children are not my gift, and that was not where I wanted. That's really not where I wanted to go. Well, Carol started putting out videos, and we would go to lunch and things, and she would talk about it, and I was like, man, I'm being tugged. I am really being tugged to this ministry, and I was like, and it wasn't guilt. It was just, yeah, you need to take part in this, and so I followed that, and I went and worked with Summer Learning Camp all summer, and it was great. I was so blessed by that experience, and I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of it. Another verse, Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord." So, first our hearts are pierced, and we've dedicated, and that symbolizes our dedicated heart to the Lord. And then there's also the other aspect of service, of having that pierced heart, having that sensitive heart, so that we are sensitive to the needs of the humans around us. I'll go back and talk a little bit more about the Flamework here that you kind of have been watching going on. I learned so much by doing this, and lots of ideas and lots of thoughts about life and Christianity and God shaping us have come as a result of this. So right there, what I'm doing is I'm adding some color, or adding some different glass. So I've got some white glass that I'm adding, and this glass is really interesting. They call it, it's shocky. It's very shocky, and so you have to heat it up before you start using it. So if you put cold glass into that flame, it just shatters, and that's where you get a lot of those little bitty pieces that I've got there. And sometimes, like you pick it up like that, and then you put it in the flame, and it may crack and shatter a little bit, but it might stay on. And so there's a lot to learn about how to do this and how to do this well. And I probably made 150 hearts or more, somewhere in that neighborhood anyway. And I like these ones where I do the little twist, and I kind of have some, it gives some, it kind of gives a little swirl to it, and it's real pretty. I think I like the solid ones too, but I really like those twists, but they're a little more work, so they're kind of an extra step. Another thing that you have to do with the glass is it's called annealing. That glass is so hot. It's like 3,000 or 4,000 degrees. And so it's funny, when it cools down, it gets these things called chill bumps. Not always, but sometimes. And kind of like little waves in the glass. And somebody asked me, "Oh, are those fingerprints?" And I was like, "Oh, no." Because it's so hot. I mean, it like, if you touch it, if you kind of forget that it's hot and you touch it, it burns you really bad, and you get, it kind of peels your fingerprints off. But the annealing process, when you got that glass, you have to let it cool very slowly. So I have this little heater that heats to about 900 degrees. And so I can put back maybe 5 or 6 hearts in there at a time. So in a session, I'll make about 5 or 6 hearts. And so that takes about a half an hour or so. And then I put the little hearts that I've made into the annealer, and then it takes about 2 hours of cooling. Well, actually, they need to stay about 900 for 2 hours, and then what I do, you're supposed to like kind of ratchet it down, but I actually just kind of turn it off and kind of cover it up so that it'll slowly cool. And when it slowly cools, what that's doing is it's hardening the glass so that the glass won't shatter, because if it's not annealed properly, it won't be hard, and you would drop it and it would just shatter. So that process keeps it from shattering so quickly. So I don't know, I didn't talk about this part earlier, but at the very end, then I kind of heat up and cool off that end, and that makes the heart part. And so here are some of the hearts that I made. In fact, these first 4 are the 4 that I made while you were watching. And then there's a few others here that are coming up that are ones that I've made, ones that I liked, that I thought were really neat, and so I have included those. But I like the swirls. I like some, but I like the solid ones too. So I guess like this, it's like your children. You don't really have a favorite.